If you just tuned in, folks, we're speaking with Chris Hadfield, commander, retired, of the International Space Station, now on the ground. Your wife, is it Helene?
Yeah, it's from German, so it's pronounced Helena.
Helena.
Yep.
And you guys were sweethearts from a young age, right? So you've been married a long time.
Yeah, we met in a high school play. We both had bit parts, so we had a lot of time backstage. So
yeah, sounds
we
good.
met each
All right.
other when we were young.
Boldly go.
Now I'm always curious about this. When your man goes to space, what happens with the little woman at home? Does she worry about you? Do you get to Skype every day? Does she breathe a sigh of relief when you come home? Are you retired because she said no more space? It's time I need your space. You know what?
Nice.
You had enough space.
I don't know. I'm not maybe projecting here, but go ahead.
Let me turn it around. Last night, a spaceship came back after 6 months on the space station. On board was Karen Nyberg. She's been up there for 6 months. She has a little son named Jack, who's about 3 or 4 years old. And so she has been up serving, doing a magnificent job, being a crew member on the space station since last spring. And it's been difficult, but she and all the other astronauts, we can phone pretty much every day. It's sort of like Skype. You need the right satellite link up, but we can do it. About once a week, you can get a video con. You can email back and forth. But like anybody who's serving away from home, especially here on Veterans Day with people serving overseas, it takes a toll on families. But if you believe that what you're doing is important and worthwhile, if you think that the legacy of it is something that is a net positive for everybody, then you find ways to deal with it. And Karen and myself and all the astronauts, we are delighted to be able to serve. And we, of course, sort it out with our families. They recognize both the difficulty and the positives of it. And they're not home fretting and complaining. It's just part of the job.
It's like so you're equating it to military service, which of course makes perfect sense. You're on a tour of duty.
It is service, absolutely.
Yeah.
The life of an astronaut is one of service, and when you're not flying in space, which is most of the time, what you're doing is supporting other space flights and helping out other families.
Is your wife, is she technical though? Because my wife would be like, blink the lights 3 times when you go over the house, and she wouldn't be able to understand how high I was.
My wife's a computer programmer, systems analyst, and a professional chef. So
sure, she would understand that. Yes. Eric Corman has a question. Eric's like our science nerd on the show. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, Commander Hadfield, how far should humans travel in space? Because I think about a plan of going to Mars, for example, and it would take a year just to go one way. Do you think that's too far? Do you think it would be too hard on a person's psyche to be trapped in a small space for that long?
It's sort of like asking in 1491, how far should people travel on Earth? Or in 1910 saying, how far should we travel in Antarctica? We take the best of our technology with the cleverest inventions we come up with, and we send out probes of discovery, and we don't always get it right. But then we figure out what these places offer. How does that have any relevance back to the rest of humanity? Should we just never go there? Should we wait until we have better inventions, till we can make it safer and more accessible? And even in aviation, in 1915, we could fly. We'd been flying for already a dozen years, but there sure wasn't any transatlantic air service. We had to invent a lot more things. Space flight is no different. It's just a natural extension of all of that. And we're kind of in the 1910 aviation phase where we can do it barely, but we're still in our first generation of engines. We're in orbit around the world right now on the space station for the last 13 years. This month we left Earth as a species 13 years ago, been living on the space station, but it's one step at a time, and we will always go as far as our technology will take us, because that's how we increase human understanding. We've done it everywhere on the surface of the planet, and as we make inventions that take us vertical, we'll continue to go that way. It's just inevitable. It's just what we do.
It's a shame you're not the first guy to step on Uranus, because you would have such a great quote, one step at a time. The whole thing, you have that whole vibe down. Joe has a question. Go ahead.
Well, I know right now your focus is on going out and speaking and doing the book tour, and I also read that you're going to accept a professorship and teach some classes for the next couple of years. But the era of commercial space travel is coming and coming quick. Virgin Galactic is going to start sending people. Lady Gaga is going to be the first person to sing in space. Would you have any interest in?
No, she's not.
Second.
Well, the second person.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chris sang in space.
Yeah, okay, the first.
Ground control to Major Joe.
Yeah,
19 million witnesses.
Yeah, the first concert, I guess.
Hey, will there be a reality show, Dancing Weightless with the Stars? Why don't we do that?
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But commercial spaceflight is the way we got to go. I mean, Boeing manages the space station. That's a big commercial venture. The real key is how do you make the customer not just be governments? How do you make spaceflight accessible enough that the customer can be a private citizen or just a company? And that's what Richard Branson's trying to do with Virgin Galactic. And he's talking about his first flight being next September. And that's, of course, what Lady Gaga is talking about and other people. It's just a really small step. They just up to the bottom of space and come down again. But it's a really important first step, and I'm all for it.
It's really important for me to be interested in doing something like that, to have a guy I have faith in flying this thing. I mean, even when I'm flying to L.A. or San Francisco, I like to see the pilot and say, now, this guy looks competent. You're the kind of guy I would want to...
He should be the pilot.
Yeah, would you have any interest in...
If Branson offers you a job, will Helena let you go back and pilot Virgin Airways space tours?
I don't know what your relationship is like, but it's not a matter of we have great respect for each other. One of the pilots...
Well, you do know what my relationship is like. We don't have great respect.
It's different.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the pilots for Virgin Galactic is a former shuttle commander, a guy named C.J. Sturko, and they got top test pilots, and I would love the chance. I've flown about 100 different types of things, and I was a Soyuz pilot, a Russian spaceship pilot. I'd love the chance to fly that rocket ship. Sure, that'd be a lot of fun.
All right. Be a lot of pop stars on there. I understand they're all spending the $250,000 which is, a bargain at this point compared to the past. Yes, Spike.
Hey, Commander, I got a couple of star questions for you. We mentioned David Bowie's Space Oddity. Have you ever had contact with David? Do you know if he, I'm sure, has seen your video of Space Oddity?
Of course. We emailed back and forth. He gave us a green light to make the video on orbit because, of course, it's his song. And then he said it was the best version of that song ever done. He emailed back and forth with me and has said publicly he really loved it. So
you're emailing with David Bowie.
He's not only that, but he's friends with William Shatner, aren't you?
That's the one I want to know about, the Shat.
I mean, it's not like a close friend, but we talk to each other and back and forth. And he's a guy who's reinvented himself in so many clever ways, and he's really an interesting man at this stage of life. I like him a lot. It was a real pleasure to talk with him from orbit, and now that I'm back on Earth.
Chris Hadfield back on Earth, and he'll be in Town Hall, Seattle, tomorrow at 7:30. Very limited tickets left. Expected to be sold out, but try to get in if you can. And then, of course, your book. I don't have that in front of me. What's the name of the book again, please?
An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. It's a New York Times bestseller.
We will put a link to that on our website, bobrivers.com. Thanks for spending the time with us, Chris. We really appreciate it.
Nice to talk with all of you. Thanks.
Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut in Los Angeles this morning.